Welcome to Stories with Dice. This is the Dark Blue Sea, a Mutant Year Zero actual play podcast. If you're enjoying our actual plays, please subscribe to Stories with Dice so you'll never miss an episode. Don't forget to rate and review us. It really helps others discover the podcast. Follow us on social media to stay updated, share your thoughts, and join the conversation. You'll find the relevant links in the description of each episode.
Hi, it's back to Mutant Year Zero and our fourth episode. Amazing. I can't believe we're here already. Somehow it seems to have just swum along. So welcome back to my wonderful players. We have Pete. Hi, Pete.
Hiya.
Douglas. Hello.
Hello.
And Chris again. Nice to see you.
Hello.
We're back. We're also loss of one Marco who's still AWOL. I'm sure we'll find him at some point. He's had enough to podcast life, or he's got on that yacht that we keep promising he would get him with all the Patreon money. We'll never see him again. Unfortunately, he can't make us tonight, so it's just us. Let's get on with it, shall we? Let's not bother with all the kind of catch up. Hopefully, you've listened to episode 1 to 3. If not, this is a stupid place to start. Go back to the beginning, catch us up, and then you'll understand where we are. So, Roach, Moss, Cochrane. Two of you thought it was a good idea to stand on the tables at the top of this very large skyscraper sticking out of the water of the ocean. You found a very nice viewing platform on which to have a look at the various areas. Unfortunately, you couldn't see a house from here, so you couldn't see the Ark. But you did see not a lot of anything around the various zones that are around you. It's mostly open ocean. There's a bit of an island off to the west and the headland to the sort of south. And as you were all doing that, you kind of got together thinking, well, it's about time maybe we should start making tracks back down towards the moored boat where your companion is waiting, when a lot of large noises kind of like came out from the floor, followed by a bunch of rats. Well, the noises turned into a bunch of rats, this large swarm of rats, and they started to kind of look tentatively as probably the first time they've seen a proper meal for a very long time. And so this leads us to you all kind of deciding what you're going to do. What are you going to do?
Whack.
Whack. I like that. So, well, we shall begin combat, shall we, in that case?
Unless anybody else has a smarter idea.
Whacking is my forte, so
whacking is your
it's
forte.
my default as well. So,
all right then.
Rats on a stick's going to be delicious, right?
Rat. Yeah. How hard can it be? Well, you'd be pleased to know that it's you first, Moss.
Awesome. So I get out my bicycle chain and just sort of swing at them whenever they're in arm range.
They kind of like start sort of like swarming towards you, and you swing out with your bicycle chain and you whack like some of these rats, and you kind of hit a couple. To be fair, there's more coming up. It doesn't seem to be making that much difference to the size of the swarm. You sort of start smacking them away. No roll for that. It's fine. Next, we've got Cochrane.
I guess I'll just pull my scrap knife and start kicking them off my table.
Okay, you start kicking and you slash out a few of them. You catch a couple, you cut them. They squeal and scream and shout. It just doesn't seem to make a dent into the swarm. Okay, next we have yourself, Roach. What do you want to do?
yeah, I'm going to try my hand, step forward and swing the axe through the swarms of them initially.
Excellent. Yeah, you start sort of like swinging the axe and you sort of like catch a couple of them, you squash a few. Again, they just seem to keep coming out of nowhere. You do not seem to be making any dent in any way, shape or form to the swarm. They're still coming towards you and they're still coming to attack you. And in fact, who's right at the front? You've stepped forward, haven't you, to attack them. So that makes sense. All right. In that case, we'll put you to the forefront of the swarm, shall we? And they're going to attack you. So they're going to do that. You going to particularly do anything, or are you just going to wait to see what happens?
I'll try and shift my feet around so that nothing gets a particular grip on me.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Right. Well, they go to attack you. Indeed, they kind of sort of like swarm all over your legs and sort of like rushing past you. They're sort of like nibbling and scratching at you. They're biting at you. Do you have any armor by any chance, Rich?
No official armor, no. I've got some fairly
No
tough
official
skin that can help, but it's not proper armor.
Are you going to, did you want to activate that with your any mutation points? Do you want to, or are you?
If it seems that I have to use it, yeah, I
It'll be
probably will.
It depends if you want to get bitten by a bunch of rats.
I'm going to try and avoid it.
Right. So first of all, tell me, does,
Yeah, it's hardened skin, reduces damage taken from external attacks. Every mutant point spent reduces the damage taken by 1.
okay.
So if I chuck a couple of mutant points into that,
Sure, that's not a problem. That's fine. So you're going to spend a couple of mutant points. Yeah, they kind of like scratch and bite. How does this look like? What does it actually do? Does it sort of like, what do you do with your body? Because it says that it's insectoid, right? So does it,
Yeah. So what appears to be soft skin kind of like tightens and gets slightly shiny and becomes more brittle and harder.
Nice. So yes, definitely the rats kind of like bite at your body, and they swarm around your feet, and you're sort of like, some of them are sort of big. They're sort of like a mixture between normal rat size and cat size rats. Yeah, you reckon that they probably make a particularly nasty bite. What you do notice is that where they've been biting at you, they're leaving the sort of like horrible yellowishy kind of like ichor on your thing, which doesn't sting or anything. It just doesn't smell very good. All right. It appears that normal combat doesn't seem to do very much to the swarm of rats. We'll go back to the top. What would you like to do, boss?
And, I swing the bicycle chain around my feet so that they can't bite me, except for, the very occasional one that does get through. And I realize this doesn't help very much, and
Nope.
it just doesn't stop. And first thing that comes to mind is fire. That's going to deter pretty much anything. But I sort of need to free myself up to be able to make one.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to be open to attacks as that happens. So what I'll do is I'll see if I can get closer, I guess, to Cochrane, and then we can sort of mooch over Roach in the hopes of, like us huddling together so that one can defend while the other two make the fire, or, two defend and one makes the fire.
So
I'll jump off my table and
into the rat
towards Cochrane's.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, you do that. Can you please make a roll to sort of like not trip over or fall on rats? Move would help very much. Excellent. Fine.
That's two
successes. Yeah, and that's great. Yeah, you kind of like jump off, avoiding sort of like standing on any rats or anything like that. In fact, you kick a couple of them out of the way and make your way over to Cochrane. Okay.
And as I do this, I shout, we ought to make a fire to deter them. Now, do I see anything on this floor that looks particularly flammable? Like the tables that we've been jumping on, are they wood?
Yep. They are a mix of wood and plastic.
Now, if Roach's axe could be used to chop off a table leg or something, that would be awesome.
I mean, yeah, you could potentially do that. I mean, you'd still be being bitten by rats.
Get over here so we can work together to get a fire going.
How would you start the fire? I'm going to ask as we go to Cochrane.
Well, I have nothing that can start a fire, so...
What would you like to do?
I am going to offer words of inspiration to Roach, who's having a grand old time fighting away. I'm being like, go on, Roach, repel borders. You could do this, and I will inspire him.
You don't have to make a roll. It won't have any effect whatsoever.
Okay.
Because Roach is not making a dent in hurting them. These things cannot be hurt by normal combat. There's just too many of them.
But is he able to keep them off us as we go?
No. They're swarming all over you. He can't keep them off you.
Animals don't like loud noises.
Keep singing.
Well, I was thinking more bang.
So, Cochrane, what are you going to do?
There's not much really I can do, because let's have a think. I'm on a table. Moss is yelling at me about fire or something.
Come across, but the rats are also on the table with you. They're all over your legs.
So it's now, instead of the rats being split, it's like double rats now, because they're all now converging on the single table.
This is working.
Essentially, if I did this, it would make more sense.
Yeah. So now they're all concentrated on us.
All over, all of you. Yeah. They're just like, and there's more sort of like coming. It's like, where do they end? It's just...
Okay, can I jump to another table to try and split off so there's like less overall rats concentrated?
you can do. That'll be a move, and I'd need 2 successes from you, sir. So feel free. Did you want to push that? Since you got no successes?
No, what? I'll push it. Why not?
Dear.
I'm falling off that table.
You basically go to run and jump off that table. You manage to clear the rats, and then you land on the table, which, unbeknownst to you, doesn't have the right number of legs, and you go straight down on your ankle, and you hear a twang or a snap or something. Yep, you sprained or done something horrendous to your ankle. That caused 2 lots of damage to your agility, or your sort of,
Yep, that's taking it down to 1.
So you're down to 1 agility. You're like, okay.
I am on a different area now from where everyone is. Lying, yeah, so I'm lying over there.
Yeah, so you basically fallen, and you've kind of like fallen onto the ground.
Don't fall over, they'll swarm you.
Right. What's Reg doing?
I'm going to hand Moss my revolver, basically say, if you can start a fire with that, and then I'm just going to keep swinging my axe to try and keep as much away as possible.
You keep swinging, and they keep whacking at them. How long
Can you swing at a
ability
table for me so that I get some smaller woody bits?
Yeah, I'll do it. Yeah,
some
if I do that, I'll do a
something.
side swipe and try and chop some kindling.
Sure. So, does that last just for the turn, your armor, or does it sort of last for like the combat?
I think it might not say. It doesn't say in my mutation.
Yeah, it doesn't in this.
I'm happy for it to be sort of like for the rest of the scene. That seems to make sense, right? I quite like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Right. That's fine. Okay. You do that. You start smacking some of the damage to the table that the cockroach is on. You kind of break off a couple of the legs as you're sort of like swinging it around wildly. The rats seem to sort of like split up and swarm between all of you. Okay. Well, it's their turn now. So let's see what happens. They scratch and bite and doesn't seem to do anything. They swarm all over Cochrane, who's on the floor. Again, they kind of like in there, they sort of like scratch and bite at your clothing and pull everything off. And then some of them sort of like swarm over you, Moss. And they're like all over you. They're kind of like hanging on. They're squealing and scratching, but they just seem to sort of like be biting at the wrong parts of you. So you can definitely feel like their little claws and their teeth sort of like nipping at you, but they don't seem to be getting through your clothing or anything like that. It's horrendous. It's like they're on you. In fact, if you've got hair, they're probably clinging onto some of your hair or some of your mossy hide, which is they're pulling out. It's horrible. They're everywhere. Right. Back to you, Moss. What do you want to do?
Yeah, so I'll collect some of that chopped off splintered wood and hope that this is fine and splintery enough to catch fire as I guess I've been handed this revolver. Do I think it's realistic that this will spark, or like that the whatever barrel heat or something will work?
No, not at all. If you want to make a fire with the revolver, something that's useful, you're going to have to pop open the bullets, and you're going to need a certain number of bullets to make an explosive combustion.
Oh, nice. Okay.
But that's going to require you to have... So, Roach, what did you give her? What revolver was that? Is that the one you found that was corroded and stuff?
No, this was the one I got previously.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. How many bullets do you want to use to basically put on top of the table and effectively the rats and stuff like that?
I do actually have bullets, but I don't have a revolver of my own, so I don't need to waste yours necessarily.
Okay. So how many bullets would you like to use to do that?
Out of character, I have no idea how much would be necessary or effective. 3, maybe?
So, yeah, 3. 3 sounds good. I don't think we need to kind of worry about what the real world explosive would be.
Yeah, because we still technically don't have anything to actually ignite it.
Yeah.
And in this logic.
Yeah, I mean, so that's fine. Although you do have, because you've got jury rig, I have no problem with you using like a bit of metal on something else to sort of like create a spark. We're not going to worry about too much in the real world things of that. So yeah, feel free. If you want to make a jury rig roll for me, please.
Okay. I'm
That'd
jury rigging away. Oh,
right.
no.
So no successes there, I see. You're going to push that?
I am absolutely going to push that. There we go.
That's a success.
But there's also damage.
It also means you get to damage the rats. Hurrah. Okay. If you could please roll me 3d6.
That doesn't look great. Is that 3 ones?
Okay, that's fine. Right. Well, you basically ignite this, the gunpowder that you're throwing out on the floor, and you ignite it. Some of the gunpowder is actually on some of the rats, and it sets off this large kind of like flash, and some of the bits of a table kind of like catch alight. Indeed, 3 of the rats, or a few of the rats, catch alight, and they start squealing and shouting. And all of a sudden, where you're standing and where Roach is standing, they kind of swarm outwards away from you as this brief explosion from the gunpowder ignites, and you can see a bunch of rats just laying dead at your feet. Nice. That seems to have done the trick. All right.
I start creating burny bits of table leg to pass them out at the others.
Okay. Well, we'll give you the explosion to start with before we go further.
I'm just stating my intentions on what I'll be doing.
Cool. Cochrane, what about you? Rat in the face.
Move very fast anymore, and I think I'll just have to like try and keep them off me. That's probably about, or like, I don't know. Being on the tables don't seem to make much of a difference.
No, not at all.
Like they don't have to like make any checks to jump or anything. So it's limited sort of mobility. I'll just have to try and keep them off me.
It makes you feel good. But other than that, and then when they start jumping around, you're like, oh, son of a... Not quite what you were hoping for. Okay. Yeah, you try and keep them away from you. It's very difficult for them to do that. But you kind of like feel good that you kind of kick and push them aside. But yeah, they don't seem to sort of... Doesn't seem to make much of a dent in their swarm. Okay, guess that leaves you, Roach. What are you doing?
If the fire's worked, I'm probably going to take my opportunity to start hacking at more of the wooden tables.
Okay.
Try and gain some more fuel.
Okay, cool. You start smashing up some of the tables. That's fine. Yeah, and it kind of like, you smash the table and you kind of kick them in the same sort of direction as the others. And it starts to smolder and start to make a proper sort of like fire kind of starts to go. You reckon it'll probably be, in game terms, probably another sort of like 3 to 6 turns before there's a fire of big enough importance to kind of keep the rats away, as it were. Okay, and it's their turn. So indeed, they go to attack. They kind of all split up because they're just all around you, and they continue. Cochrane, you got, unfortunately, the majority of them. And again, they're on top of you and grabbing your sort of like bits of sort of skin and fur and stuff. They don't seem to actively sinking their teeth in at this present moment. Again, it appears that no one goes for moss. They kind of have learned their lesson the hard way, and they kind of like bite into your skin, Roach. But your hard chitinous armor that you've kind of like created sort of like seems to stop all their sort of like teeth and nails from scratching you. Right, back up to the top again. Amos, what's your plan now? I mean, you've got more bullets. You can do it again, but
Yeah, well, I want to give Roach a torch so that he can keep them off him.
Okay,
I'm sure that's gonna, be a good deterrent while he's still lying there immobile.
Yep, that's cool. Yeah, you can do that. Are you happy to take the torch instead of your large axe? Right?
Yeah, I'll stow the axe, and
you've got like a bit of a burning bit of table leg. It doesn't feel like it's any bad. Well, it's a small burning table leg rather than your big massive axe, but
But at least you can keep them out of his face that way.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else you want to do, Moss?
I'll set out and do it again. I've got some more bullets.
How many more bullets do you want to use? Basically, determine the number of bullets will determine the number of damage you're going to end up doing.
Right.
Or potential damage.
I mean, so we're already sort of one person down. This needs to end fast. So I'll actually spend the rest of my bullets on this, and that would be 5.
5 bullets. Okay. Can you make a move roll? I just want to see whether you'd be able to do all of them. Let me know if you get any successes.
That's 1 success.
That's fine. Okay. If you want to roll me 5d6, that'd be great.
That's 1. So that's 5d6s now.
Okay. Cool. Excellent. Okay. Right. You set off a bunch of them. It turns out that a couple of your bullets were duds.
I mean, they get wet easily.
But the ones you kind of put together, you kind of like skip it all up as they're kind of like biting yourself, and you throw the gunpowder again into sort of like the fire and around where the rats are, and it sets off this large noise. And again, it kind of catches some of the rats. And they definitely seem to sort of like run off. They sort of thin out, and So you don't think that you're killing them, but you're kind of like scaring them off to kind of get away from you. I mean, that's good enough, right?
Yeah.
And so they kind of scatter. So you are relatively now alone, and the rest of them mostly head, unfortunately, over to where Cochrane is. Sorry. On the plus side, they're staying well away from you. Cochrane, the rats are coming towards you more.
So in this room, all there is sort of tables, the balconies, the stuff on the binocular things.
Yeah, there's
any
probably
light fittings or anything like that?
Any light fittings? You look up. Yeah, there's some light fittings.
Or like, is it? I forget what they're called. The sort of like the panel sort of roof where there's like a cavity.
Yeah. That seems like a good thing. Yeah, there is a kind of cavity sort of thing.
I will. Because I attempt to like jump up and hang off that so the rats are just nipping at my toes.
Yeah. Do you have any way of kind of like jumping straight up a couple of meters? Do you have any sort of like mutations or anything that allow you to do that sort of thing?
I have a table.
You can you can hobble to the next table and climb up it if you want.
Yeah. Would that
give
me half a meter or so up?
Make a move roll for me.
This will probably end badly because my children is absolutely
with a really sore ankle. Yeah.
Or two successes.
Do you know what? Making a lot of rats trying to rip your legs off gives you a lot of impetus to just basically use all what's left of your agility to jump up. You kind of go through the sort of like the fake ceiling and grab onto some of the struts, and you've got like a couple of rats still hanging onto your boot, which you kind of knock off. They're not going to be able to actually get an attack on you this round. I think you've done what you needed to do. Right.
I'll just leave it to everyone else to actually solve the problem. I'll just bait them here.
Roach.
I'm just going to be
flaming brand.
Yeah, wafting that around in the traditional warding them off kind of.
It will give you an extra 1 gear dice to smack them with it. So just use your normal close combat, but you get a +1 for the brand.
So yeah, using unarmed combat.
How about these dastardly rats? Well, 3 successes? Okay. Well, turns out with the right implement and the right amount of anger, you can do a fairly good job. It does 1 damage, and I think you got 3 successes, so you can essentially do 3 damage if you want. Or alternatively, you can perform some stunts. But I mean, most of the stunts aren't really going to help you. You've already got the initiative. It's a swarm of them, so it's very difficult to kind of. If it was an individual, it'd be a lot easier. But probably just whacking them away is probably your best bet, which you do very successfully. You seem to thin them out. They don't have Cochrane to kind of like get at. So they've kind of swarmed back to you, between you and Moss, creating the explosive reaction with the gunpowder, and you smacking them with this flaming brand. You can see they've kind of like thought slightly different about it, and you're not as easy a meal as they were hoping to. And they all start to scatter off to the far sides of the room, back down the holes they came into, and the skittering eventually just disappears. Okay. We'll call that the end of combat. Right. There's various rats laying around you. Some of them sort of like trying to wander into the holes with like singed fur and burnt oars and stuff like that. Okay.
Is it safe to come down now?
They seem to be backing off for now anyway.
Attempt to gently let myself down with my sore ankle.
I'll go to stand underneath so it doesn't hurt his ankle if he comes down hard.
That's cool. Yeah.
I will have a look at my ankle as well, see if it's broken or sprained or...
Do you have any kind of medicine?
I have... 1 second, I think I've got healing.
Well, heal is the... Yeah,
I've got
make a heal.
Yeah.
Make a heal roll. You think you probably... Oh my God, it's hanging off. No.
Yeah. Amputation required.
It's difficult to tell, but you don't think it's broken, but you probably pulled some stuff going on in there. The best way to do that is to put your foot up for about a week or so, and you should be fine.
So, do we want to stay here now that it's cleared for the night, or?
I've got the feeling their hunger might overcome their fear after a certain amount of time. But while we're thinking, if we can keep feeding this fire and keep that going, so we've got that handy while we think about what our next move is.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, now that it's dark, I'm not sure how far we can make it safely. Although I guess now we do have torches.
You Yeah, you technically have got torches now, yeah.
So that I'm really disappointed that the plan of spending the night here up in the safe height didn't pan out. But now we've got to rethink that, I guess.
I don't know. I still think it's safer with the thing that we know about than just wandering around in a boat in the dark.
Yeah, maybe. Do we think there's enough tables here to keep the fire going for the night?
Yeah, you could probably keep the fire going for the night. There's quite a lot of tables and chairs kind of like stacked up. So, I mean, some of them's plastic, so that's going to not burn well. But yeah, you reckon you could probably get away with that?
That might be the solution then.
Yeah, and we might have damaged and killed enough rats to keep their hunger sated for a while as well.
Yeah, they might eat some of the charred rats.
I'm a bit, irritated by the yellow ichor that you mentioned.
Yeah, that's
is there any way to investigate that?
Yeah, if you want to make a know the zone roll, if anyone has know the zone. My God, you guys are terrible.
It's almost like we had a dedicated character to do all this stuff.
I've got no idea
right
these are zone ghoul rats.
Okay.
We haven't come across anyone for me to talk to, so a lot of my stuff is not relevant yet.
To be fair, you pretty much lived on a very large ship. So while you had rats, they were not these kind of rats. And they never really attacked you or swarmed you in any way. And they didn't have like weird yellowy kind of pussy saliva. So you're not really sure about that.
Yeah, I'm not going to be eating
safe
well.
to eat. Yeah.
I guess we'll stay here then.
I mean, how hard can it be, right? Yeah, you can stay here if you wish. Not a problem. Okay. You got any grub or any water?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Got
Cool. If you're going to stay here overnight, you need to have one ration of water and one ration of grub. So you can take one of those off.
Plenty if anyone needs any. So, but I assume everyone else has got at least one.
Yeah, I'm all right for now.
Cool. That's if you want to eat your food. Do any of you want to eat the rats?
No.
Okay. No? Okay.
What could be in store there? More mutations, maybe?
Who knows?
I'll start roasting one and I'll see how it smells then.
Okay. Well, it doesn't smell great. I mean, you probably had worse, or at least you smelt worse and eaten worse. But yeah, I mean, do you want to eat one? That's fine.
Have a very tentative nibble. Yeah.
Okay. It's a very kind of irony kind of taste. It's a bit gamey, but also a little bit off.
Yeah. I mean, can't recommend, but it's just out of spite,
Sure. But just going to eat it out of spite. Damn you. Cool. Well, you, by the time you've kind of set up and you're kind of like feeding the fire, you've all been here for pretty much a day. So you can all gain 1 level of rot. Oh,
yay!
And because you ate one of the rats, Moss can have an extra rot.
Woo!
Okay, so congratulations. You've got your first rot in the zone. So every time you suffer a rot point, you must immediately roll a number of base dice equal to the total amount of rot points. So for every failure you roll, you suffer 1 point of damage, trauma to your strength. So what I want you to do is, so for all of you apart from Chris, you've all got 1 point of rot. Because you've now taken that rot, I need you to all make a roll on rot. So you should just be able to click on, I think you should be able to click on rot. And as long as you don't get a bad symbol, you'll be fine. So who was that? So if you both do that, that's fine. Now,
Yay.
Chris, can you roll when you get your first rot? Roll that. So just make sure there's 1 in there only and roll that. So if we take away, because you've got 2 in there, I'm just going to give you 1. I'm just going to give you 1 rot. So that's fine. Now I'm giving you another rot, so you can make another rot roll for me, please, at 2. Right.
Of course.
Hooray! So you take 1 lots to your strength. That's fine. When you get back to the Ark and you take refuge, you can leave your body every day. If you wash your body in clean water, half your rot points rounded up go away immediately. When you're contaminated by the rot, there is a risk that it will stay in your body forever. Every time you're about to lose 1 rot point, you roll 1 base dice, like you've just done, and the rot point stays and becomes permanent. Obviously, when you get to 10 points, that's not good. Permanent rot points stay with you for the rest of your life, no matter how hard you scrub yourself. Permanent rot points cannot be used by the rot-eating mutation. So yes, obviously, when you get to 10, well, you're going to keep accruing your rot, and you're just going to take damage. Eventually, you're going to die of it. So, welcome to the wonderful world of Mutant Year Zero. Okay, you're not feeling well, and clearly the rat disagreed with you. So you immediately, after you've eaten the rat, you're like, ha, that'll serve you right. And then you immediately throw it back up, and the rat or an eyeball kind of like laughs, it looks at you as if it's laughing. You're like, God damn you. Yeah, it's not a very comfortable evening, but you don't hear them come back. And then in the morning, what do you plan to do?
Do we get to rest a bit? Do we recuperate any of our lost skills?
You're all suffering raw, aren't you? So, no.
That sucks.
Well, I don't know. So two of you aren't suffering. Two of you didn't take any damage, did you? So yeah, you're gonna rest the night. That's fine. Yes, why not? What kind of damage have you taken, Cochrane?
Well, I've taken the agility hit.
Sure, agility. You've eaten and you've drunk, haven't you? That's fine. And then what about you, Roach?
I hadn't lost anything so far.
Fair enough. Nice. In that case, that seems pretty good. Yeah, you rest overnight and you've had a ration of water. So if you want to heal more of it, so a ration of water per point of agility to be restored, so you just take extra water on, and that will help you take your agility back up.
Okay. So I've taken 1 water, so I get 1 agility back so far.
Yeah. So if you take another one, you'll take your other agility back by the morning. If you want to recover strength overnight, then absolutely, it's another ration of food per point of strength that you want to be restored. For wits, at least 4 hours of sleep restore all lost wits. So yeah, you can get that back. And if you've got any empathy damage, then a moment of closeness with other mutants restores that lost empathy.
So morning.
Morning happened.
Do we want to explore more buildings? Because this one seems a bit of a bust, but there is plenty of others around here.
Yeah, that was not my favorite building.
There's plenty of floors we still didn't get into if we wanted to break some of the doors in.
Yeah, but the rats are still there somewhere in here.
Rats are still here.
But like if we go to a completely different building, there might not be any rats there.
This is also true.
There also might be something worse, but you know, that's pessimistic. Yeah, I would say maybe go check if there's an easier building that won't require like bashing down doors and fighting swarms of rats. Also check if Caspian survived the night and didn't get eaten by rats.
That's also helpful.
Unfortunate.
So you're going to make your way back down the 10 flights of floors to go and check on Caspian?
Yeah, if we're leaving, yeah, I suppose.
Do you want me to drag this look-far tube thing?
Yeah, I'll give you a hand for that.
Well, you take a couple of hours to like wander down. Well, it takes you less than that. It's actually a lot less. When you're not taking all the doors and you're not doing all the rest of it, it takes you a lot less. You eventually make your way down. And you can see that Caspian is sitting in the boat waiting for you. In fact, he's got his fishing rod out and he's fishing over the side of the boat. And he looks at you and asks what happened. You realize that the boat is moored at a slightly different spot. And he tells you that a bunch of rats came running down this way. So he had to sort of like unmoor the boat. And they weren't in any hurry to jump in the water. And then he remoored again when they disappeared. He could see a flash of light up at the top on the top floor. And he asked if that was you. You recount your stories. And he seems quite like shocked and sort of, oh my goodness. When you tell him what they are, let's see if Caspian knows exactly what they are. He's got to know the zone. It's like he create that character for that. Yeah. So he tells you they're zone rats and they are mutated rats that carry the rot. If you get bitten by them,
wonderful.
If you get bitten by them, they'll give you rot. And it says fire, explosives, the best way to deal with them. And I probably wouldn't want to eat them.
Oh well, now you say that.
We figured all that out ourselves without you, Caspian. So good job.
What do you need me for? He starts to untie
I don't know, Caspian. I don't know. Just to drive the boat.
He wants to know what your plans are.
We'll guess. Do you want to just go to another building and check it out?
I'd like to be able to get back home tonight. I wouldn't want to sleep here another night. But now that the boats are nice and fixed up, we will be able to spend the morning exploring and then make back home, right?
Yeah.
Well, fair. I will pick a building at random and be like, that one.
Okay, you pick a building at random and go to that one.
I mean, does Caspian see a building that looks particularly promising from knowing the zone?
Caspian says, I'm an NPC and I can point you towards the plot line, but that's all.
That's useful. I'll take it.
No, he says, whichever one you seem quite happy with, he's happy to go with as well.
I've got a good feeling about that one.
Okay. You head towards one. As you head towards one, on the horizon, you just make out a vessel. Just past the actual, almost on the edge of the next zone, you see a vessel sort of grace the horizon very briefly and then disappear over the horizon.
Can I get the big versions of the Luke Far cylinders and see if I can find it again?
You can. You kind of stare and look through them. You can still over the horizon, so you can't actually see where it's going north or northwest, probably. So you're trying to figure out which is the right way. And that's where they're going. But it definitely means you'd have to leave this zone and go into the next zone, potentially into the next zone, which takes you into open sea.
How rare is that for us to see other boats, actually?
So where you're from, which isn't this area, you would have regularly seen traders and that kind of thing, which you would have traded with. There were a couple of places that were sort of a conglomerate of ships that all tied together, mini sort of like almost mini towns that were just floating on the actual open ocean. And so you would have seen people like that. There were also the various gangs that kind of rove the wasteland on the water. You probably wouldn't want to see them. So you don't know whether they're good or bad. So you would have seen them. I mean, it's not super rare, but you don't know these waters. You don't even know where you are because you've never seen this landmass before. You've never come this direction. So you can't orientate yourself as to where you are.
So this is the first other vessel that we've seen since we arrived here?
Correct. Tell you what you can do for me. So, I mean, do you want to go and chase them up, or do you want to just continue to check the area around here?
I feel like heading out into deep water on the sort of chance of we might have seen something is like asking for like us getting like washed away and never finding home again.
There is a potential for that.
It's like going out into the desert and then as soon as you're past the horizon, you're like, where's home?
That was a much bigger vessel than ours too. So even if we met them, we'd be outnumbered, and they might just be having us for dinner.
This is also true.
Yeah, I don't want it. I don't want to go after.
We will make a note that we have seen a book.
I mean, the last time a couple of people that we met were nice. So
yeah, they seemed perfectly friendly. So I guess we'll use this. Seeing as you're in a sail, can someone roll me a d6 to determine the direction of the wind? Ooh, now we're going to get technical now that you're sort of like to the point where you're near the open ocean. Yeah, someone roll me a d6 and let me know what you get.
Will I do that?
5. It starts to pick up a bit of wind, and so this kind of the wind sort of like seems to catch you from the south. So if you were going north, then it would be fairly straightforward to sort of go in that direction. And could you please roll me another d6 to determine what your weather is doing?
1.
Okay. A couple of hours in, or maybe an hour or so in, you realize the reason for the sort of like increase in weather, in wind, is the weather starts to come in. A couple of squalls start to come off the island, and clouds start to sort of go overhead. With this new information, did you want to do anything different than going to another one of these outlying buildings?
So it's a very strong sort of like wind that is going to blow us north.
Northerly wind. Yeah. You can, absolutely, as long as you're not going dead south. So if you were to go west or east or north, you'd be fine.
Yeah, so long as we can still safely get home, I'll be fine to go.
Unless the wind changes. If the wind sort of changes, if you get a westerly, then, it's going to be harder. It just takes longer to get somewhere. So currently, if you were to go north, it would take you 3 hours to cover the zone without too much problem. South, if you were to go due south, it would take you double that amount of time. So it would take you 12 hours to go due south into the next zone, which is essentially a whole day's worth of travel.
Maybe like a couple hours exploring and then head back. What do you guys say? Think? Like not spend a huge amount of time.
Yeah.
Just want to spend as much daylight time traveling.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, you kind of like make your way around the buildings. There's definitely a lot of them. Absolutely, for sure. A lot of them are in the same sort of state. In fact, you probably picked the best 2 that you've been to so far. And you spend the rest of the sort of like the rest of the morning, digging in around the thing. Let's give Marco a chance, seeing as a new day, to just see if he can find anything.
I was about to say, can I inspire him to work harder? But
Can you? I mean, if you want to give it a go, I mean, at some point someone's going to slap you, right? But yeah, go ahead.
Only if I fail.
Go on then, make an inspiration roll.
That is not today.
Does not today, but it turns out that this is now what he's doing. So yeah, he basically sort of like follows the thing. He says that the area that you're in because he's also taking one level of rot, has got a low level of rot in the area. So for every day you stay in the zone, you will accrue another level of rot. So obviously to get out here is probably a good plan, as long as we don't spend more than a few more hours exploring the ruins. And he also, and I'm going to give this over to you, he's got one stunt. So you can fish for one ration of rot damaged fish. You can check to see if there's something going on in the thing. So you can find either some bullets or look for an artifact, or you can avoid any creatures or things or threats in the zone. So you get to pick one of those. What would you like to do?
We want to try and recoup some resources.
Yeah, maybe get moss, at least one bullet. Yeah.
Okay. You're good for bullets?
Yeah, bullets seem to be the thing to try and go for.
If you're listening to this podcast, which hopefully you are, otherwise I don't know why we're doing this, a large cat has appeared in Chris's screen, which looks very sweet.
It's not a rot cat.
It's not a rot cat, you're fine. But the rats are about that sort of size. Okay, yeah, you kind of have a bit of a look around, and yes, you find 5 bullets, which I guess, did you want to give to Moss for recovery of the bullets that she's already used?
She did kind of save our skin, so...
We can share them. At least I didn't twist my ankle.
That's correct. You did not twist your ankle.
Okay. Yes, you find 5 bullets, but you can share however you want between yourselves. And then you want to head off back to the yacht, or back to the ship.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea. What do you guys think?
So back the way you came, or did you want to go through the zone that you haven't explored in between?
So director scenic route.
Yes. What would you like to do, team?
I would say maybe scenic, because then we get a bit more information just in case.
Okay.
So this would be sort of along the north edge of the channel.
Essentially, yeah, you would go upwards slightly and go into essentially the other side of that northern island that's above where your ship is.
Yeah, I think that sounds like a calculated risk. You know, like we're not going to get swept out at sea or something because there's that island to keep us from harm, ideally.
Still a potential, but you never know which way the winds of fate will take you, or in this case, the ocean. Okay, right. I guess you're going to... I tell you what, why don't you've kind of got the hang of this kind of like sailing malarkey to a degree. Can one of you please make a force roll now that you've got to hang with it, and the other person make a wits roll?
Well, I can do the force roll if you like.
Can I just sing sea shanties and be helpful?
Yeah, you can sing sea shanties and be helpful. Yeah, that's right. Why don't you inspire?
Oh, nope, I still succeeded, so not today.
Okay. Yeah, Pete, you're starting to get the hang of the sun sailing malarkey. The rope's going in the right place, and, you know, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know which direction we're going. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, I did actually roll a failure according to this. I think the visualization was different from the...
It was wrong to the actual
rolls,
thing.
yes.
Okay, right.
I was saying I failed.
So...
I repeated the song from yesterday. Terrible. How annoying.
Everyone's like, oh, come on. Right, well, so here's the thing. You manage to make your way through and navigate, so you're not going to get lost. That's the first thing. Caspian knows which way he's going and is aware of how to get in that direction, so you're not going to get lost. But I'll just change the map so you can see the two in-between zones. Right then. All right. You head into the zone. It's completely open. There's nothing. There's just open ocean and the island on the far eastern end of that zone. As you sort of like make your way in and you're sort of like starting to traverse away from the wind's picking up some more, and torrential rain starts to pour down and score all over the boat. Yeah, it sort of starts to like, and then you pick up with sheets of like ice that kind of like come in. So it starts to sort of sleet on top of you. The temperature starts to drop and it becomes very hard going while you're sailing the vessel. It's not ideal. The wind howls, waves crash over the deck, visibility is bad, and it becomes just really difficult to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
You're kind of like finding it difficult to sort of like go through there's a proper howl and proper squalls hitting. The boat's starting to rock. It's not as bad as some of the storms you've been in, but you're in a smaller vessel, so the waves are obviously look a lot bigger than when you were in the old ship. And so it takes every ounce of your strength to kind of hold everything together. And as the wind and the rain starts crashing down, lightning shatters into the sky, and you're pretty sure that it's going to be a really bad day for you.